the curve. These things are important cornerstones, not trying to make a pun here, to the very fabric of iconic racing circuits. Just look at Suzuka for example. The entire course is a symphony of some wonderful, sweeping bends, fiddling their way around the Japanese mountains as if it was spaghetti, to create corners that make this track so incredibly iconic. And a racing driver's dream. That's not the only one. Spa, Magny-Cours and Road America are all examples of tracks that demonstrate the wonderfulness that is the curve. This track that I'm going to go over has none of those. We're back in America, and it's once again time to take a deep dive into yet another street track. Well, I say that, I'm going to try my very best to make this episode as interesting as possible. However, as this video develops, you may see why it's a little tricky. Anyway, it's about a minute in and I haven't said where we are. I mean, you probably know by the video title, but still, it feels as though it's only right that I say that we're in Minneapolis for the event that was known as the Grand Prix of Minnesota. This event ran from 1996 to 1998, for all 3 of those years with Trans Am, with one of those years also including the United States Road Racing Championship, the category that came before Grand Am. Now, if you've seen my episode on the Trans Am track in Des Moines, you may have picked up about a point I made about how many right-angle corners that track had. Well, here's the layout of the Minnesota street circuit. That's a lot of right-angle corners. Let's start off with the first one. Arriving at the first turn via the pleasantly long and wide straight, you get a wonderful opportunity to attempt an overtake. You also then get to see the vast openness of turn 2 and turn 3, a section that in my opinion is a missed opportunity. The reality is that there's only one line. Well, one quick line through this section. Plus, this area isn't where you can do overtakes either, which renders all the extra room that's being created pretty much useless. I think a better way would be to make that section a bit narrower, and then the space that's created by that is where you can put potentially some grandstands in. Past the third corner, you then had to go hard on the anchors for turn 4. A very wide corner, but it's still just a 90-degree corner. A short sprint over to turn 5, which is another 90-degree right-hand corner. We then head to turn 6. Maybe a passing zone, but only if your car is a class above the car ahead. Sure, the corner does open up a bit on the entry, but realistically, you're not going to get any passes done in similar cars unless there's either a bit of bravery or the drivers being courteous towards each other. A quick burst of acceleration brings you to turn 7, which is, yep, you've guessed it, another 90-degree right-hander. Although at least there's some noticeable change in elevation heading up to the corner. Turn 8 is also a 90-degree corner, this time going to the left. You don't have to wait too long before you get to the next corner at turn 9, and then the same at turn 10. Consecutive 90-degree right-hand turns. Sorry, I'm getting a bit fed up of saying that. Turn 11 is another 90-degree corner, but luckily I have something else to mention about this track that isn't a 90-degree corner. That would be the pit lane. Yes, the pit lane is not on the same straight as the start and finish line. However, whilst the exit of the pit lane seems fantastic by street track standards, a really good and smooth blend back onto the track, the entry to the pit lane, I can't be quite as positive. You enter it at a slightly awkward angle because of where it's positioned in comparison to the right side barrier entering turn 11. However, the turn to actually get into the pits is really tight, and you would probably have to put in huge amounts of steering lock in to try and make the required turn, especially with how this wall comes out to you. The lap ends with 2 more 90-degree right-handers with turn 12 and turn 13 before you blast your way to the start-finish line to complete a lap around, well, a track that is maybe not one of the most invigorating in terms of layout. Now, I'm very much aware that any street circuit is restricted in terms of what kind of track can be made in regards to the geography of a specific location. However, in my view, this is just a bit too stale a racetrack. No standout corners, no real variety either. I mean, at the very least, it seemed like a physical challenge because of the incessant cornering you had to do with very little rest time. However, from a television perspective, this track just doesn't have a lot going for it. Maybe some of the background shots were quite cool from certain camera positions, plus of course just watching these types of high-end prototype and GT cars racing their way around the course is a cool enough watch to just about keep racing fans engaged. However, say in the scenario that you show somebody their first motor race, and this is the track that you show their first race on. In my view, I don't feel as though that person would feel encouraged enough to become a motorsport fan. This track was not a good street circuit. However, all of what I've just said is completely and utterly irrelevant. That's because of how this event became a thing in the first place. You see, this event was the first professional motorsport event in the US that would contribute all of its profit to charity, and more specifically, a children's cancer charity, with the aim of the event to raise $1 million. When I found this out, it shocked me. To make a street racing event work is incredibly tricky, so to make one work with in turn giving all the profit to charity, whilst incredibly admirable, it very sadly doesn't surprise me to see that it lasted 3 years. But to me, I couldn't care less if this track was plain and boring. If this event during its tenure not only gave the people who paid to be there a great time, but far more importantly, managed to make a positive difference to families going through an unimaginably difficult time, then a dull track should be the least we care about. On that note, thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any other street tracks you'd like to see featured in this series, say down in the comment section what you'd like to see. However, until the next video, enjoy the rest of your day.